In the previous video, we looked at using VLOOKUP, vertical lookup, as a way to find data within a large range of cells. That's very, very good. One of the drawbacks to it is that you can only look to the right of the column that the ID that you're looking for is in. So there is a more dynamic way to do it. You have to nest formulas to do it, or functions to do it, and the two that we're going to look at are index and match. So we're gonna match here, as it says, is a function that returns the numerical position of text within an array or a range of cells. And then index allows you to return a specified value within that array. So we're going to nest a match inside of an index function to pull out the same exact information that we did before. Now this is the most basic way to use index and match. There is also another way to do it, which we'll look at in a later video. But this one, right, is we're gonna mimic exactly what we did with the VLOOKUP function, but instead use index and match to show you that we can do it a different way. Right. So here's some nice things you can look at. Right. So let's go back to our spreadsheet, and so we have all of our VLOOKUP stuff from last time, but now we want to do the exact same thing, but doing index and match. So the first thing we're going to do is to understand how match works. Let's just try by doing equal match, right? And we can see down here the different parameters that it takes in. A lookup value, the lookup array, and then the match type, which is optional because it's within the square brackets, right? We can also click on the F of insert function here to see what things we might be interested in. So again, the two bold ones are the required, the optional parameters, the match type. And I always like to kind of look at the function arguments because it allows me to see what it's doing. All right, so the lookup value is the value that we want to use to find in the array a number, a text, logical, or reference to any one of these. So here I want to do the same thing that we did before. Our lookup value is going to be ID, right? And notice again when I click on K3, it actually shows up because it's named. The lookup array. This is not the entire data set, right? This is going to be something else. This is going to be just the column of student IDs. And I was smart enough to name this for you. You can see here that I named it ID column. And then I'm going to leave it blank now for match and click OK. It says it's going to return 25. So what does this 25 mean? It's saying that the 4181 is row 25 within this data set. 4181, where are you? It's that's not right? So it's doing an approximate instead of an exact. That's what that last parameter is doing. To see if this works, let's change this to 4370. All right, it's still returning 25. Right, so it's not finding the right thing because it's not an exact. So I'm going to come back over here and change this to the match type, and if let's do this to the match type, let's do this, we can do less than, exact match, or greater than. -1 is the greater than. That's the default, I believe. So I want an exact match. Click OK. Now I get that 1. If I go back to the 4181, I should get 22. Yeah, so that's correct. So now I'm getting the right thing. All right. So I'm finding the row number in which this particular student ID shows up in. So that's match. Match is going to return a number. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that number inside of index. So let's go back to here and see what index is going to do for me. Index allows you to return a specified value within an array. So it's going to take the array that contains the value I'm looking for. So that's going to be back to our data. That's what we name that range of cells. All right, the position of the value within the array, and that is the what we got back from match. So that's the row number. And then the last thing is which column am I returning. All right. So it's the array with the answer, our match lookup value, and the match type, and then which column. So the column is going to be 2 because it's out of the data. So let's try it. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to double click in here and go up in front of the equal sign, or right after the equal sign, and do index. The array, I'm going to hit F3 here, and I want data, this guy, right? Then I can say the next parameter is the row number. So here, array, row number, column number. So we're doing the first one. So this is my row number, which was 22 for this 4181. And the column number is, because data contain the student ID, it's going to, and I'm looking for first name, it's column 2. Close that off, and I say, hey, I got Gabriel again. Perfect. Let's go back to 4370. I get Noah. Perfect. So I'm going to go back up to 4181. Sure, doesn't matter. So now, in theory, I can drag this all the way down, right? But because I'm always pointing to column 2, it doesn't do it. Only pulls out the first name. So I'm going to go in and manually change this like we did with the VLOOKUP. Again, there are other ways to do this a little more dynamic, but for our purposes, we don't need to do that right now. All right, so go in and change each one. I think I'm up to 6. Yes, then I'm up to 7 until we get it all the way. All right. And so we get the exact same thing. So now if we change this to 4370, right, we get the same thing. We tried 1515 before, I think, and it gave us NAs. Let's see what happens with the index match. We get the same result, right? That shouldn't surprise you, right? It just is saying that we don't, it can't find it. Let's try another number, 6121. Haha, that number actually showed up. Logan Anderson. Right? So this is looking like index and match are doing the exact same thing. So again, we nest a match, all of that right there, inside of an index. Right? And we're using this first one that pops up as a tooltip. Right? It's the array that we're looking in, the row number that we want, which we got with match, and then the column number, which is depending on which thing we're pulling out, first name, last name, etc. So that's another way of looking up data in a large range of cells.